Welcome to the Questionable Calls podcast. Just doing by myself today. Wanted to get some thoughts out there about the NFL draft and the NBA playoffs since we just had a pretty fascinating sports weekend. So I think going to starting off with the NFL draft. This is one of those things where you never know the truth until you actually get to the draft. So we've heard for months about the quarterbacks and all of this nonsense, and the JJ McCarthy shooting up the draft board was like this constant theme you were hearing. Once the college football season ended, and the whole thing was kind of weird. I thought that the way that we looked at it was just kind of strange. Like JJ McCarthy looked like a game manager. You know, um, it didn't look like he was like a first round pick at all. Even while we were watching the games, I wasn't thinking this guy was going to be a first round pick. Maybe late first, but as we all know, if you start thinking about somebody as a late first round pick, it's not a big leap to think that they're going to be a really high first round pick. So the story of the first round of the draft was, the six quarterbacks going with the first 12 picks, which is just insane. We've had six quarterbacks taken in the first round, but never through 12 picks. 12 picks before, which is just crazy. Like it's just insanity. So, just if I'm ranking the quarterback situations, so this is how I look at it. I think in today's NFL, you've got to have the right situation. Otherwise, you have no chance. And so if I'm ranking the situations, J.J. McCarthy going to Minnesota, to me, is the best situation. They've got one of the best receivers in the NFL, really good offensive coach, good tight end, good second receiver, good tackles on their offensive line. Like, he's literally got everything there for him. And he's got the coach basically, telling him what to do. I don't think that J.J. McCarthy should or is going to start right away. So no, I don't think JJ McCarthy should start right away. I think the Sam Darnold pickup is perfect for them. They can let him sit and wait. The second best situation is the Bears. I think what the Bears have done for Caleb Williams. They already had DJ Moore, and then they went and got Keenan Allen, traded for Keenan Allen from the Chargers, and then they just drafted Rome Odunze. They've got two good tight ends. They've got a good running back. I think they're in a similar situation where they drafted a tackle and they've got another one anyway. So the Bears are in good shape. The reason why I'm not giving them as good of a situation as J.J. McCarthy has is because I don't know that I trust Matt Eberflus as the head coach. I don't know that I trust them, their head coach, to, empower the offense. And they've got a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who, has had a pretty good career so far. Coach Russell Wilson in Seattle. So I feel like they should be good, but I just have a couple of questions about it. Whereas Minnesota, I really don't have any questions. I know exactly what I'm getting from Kevin O'Connell. After that, I would say it's kind of a toss-up between Bo Nix in Denver and Jayden Daniels in Washington. I mean, I think Jayden Daniels, obviously, I think he's got the better receivers probably. And he's got Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator, but Bo Nix has Sean Payton. So they're both pretty good. I would think that Washington has more of a they've got more room to grow because they don't have the cap problems that Denver has because Denver's still on the hook for Russell Wilson's salary for the next 2 years. So I think that gives Washington a little more flexibility. So I'd probably put them ahead of Denver in that case. Then obviously Denver after them would be number 4. And I mean, Drake May, if you can succeed in New England, good for you, because that thing looks like a damn disaster. I don't know how that's going to work. Now, they drafted 7 offensive players, so I give them credit for, doing what they can to help out the young quarterback. But I mean, I will say from New England's point of view, if you're going to draft a quarterback in that tough situation, you might as well draft the biggest, strongest guy. Especially when you're talking about playing in New England in the winter having to throw the ball in cold weather and all of that. So I give, I don't know if Drake May is going to succeed there. I think it all depends on if the Patriots are smart or not. I think, oh yeah, and then we'll get into the Michael Penix Atlanta situation, which to me is an outlier. Like, to me, that I'm not even putting that with the other ones because I don't think Penix is going to really play very much this year. And that's the biggest thing from the draft is what Atlanta did at 8, where the pick comes up. And, I'm watching the first round and it's going pretty much chalk. And I'm thinking Atlanta's going to draft a defensive player. And Adam Schefter comes on and says, Atlanta could be looking at quarterback here. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? And then they announce the pick and it's just like, what is Atlanta doing? And so I just want to, everybody's gone back and forth. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But the thing that can't be argued is, from a team building perspective, this doesn't make any sense. It literally makes zero sense. You can't, if you're going to pay Kirk Cousins that kind of money, you can't go drafting a quarterback and with the 8th pick. Like, and nothing against Michael Penix. I have zero issue with you drafting Michael Penix. I just think if you're going to do that, that's fine. But then you can't sign Kirk Cousins. And the way this is going to be spun is, well, we didn't know Penix would be there, so we had to adjust on the fly and all of this nonsense. To me, this draft pick points to the organizational instability and the incompetence of the Atlanta Falcons. This explains why, Belichick's not in our top 3 coaches, and they're proud of that. They're proud of that Belichick couldn't crack the top 3. Congratulations. So I just think there's no way in hell that Atlanta, all of a sudden, they had this plan back in January. There's no way that happened. Their plan was, we're going to sign Kirk Cousins, and then all of a sudden they decided to change plans in the middle of it, which it doesn't seem like, from what I'm hearing everybody saying about the video, it doesn't seem like the owner was informed of this decision, which seems kind of important. You're going to draft a young quarterback after I'm just going to give this quarterback 180 million. You decided to draft one, that high in the first round. So that's a conversation starter. And the other thing is, and the main point, and the point that I don't hear enough people saying is, or making this point is, you're paying Kirk Cousins $45 million a year. That's $45 million you could have used to help out the rest of your team. The best thing to have in the NFL is a young quarterback on a rookie contract. You can build up the whole team around him, right? And make sure that he succeeds, right? It's a huge advantage if you hit on the rookie quarterback. Well, they basically have taken that advantage and thrown it out the window. Atlanta has literally made it more difficult now to win because you've got all this money tied up in a guy. When you just drafted his replacement, basically. So if they were going to do this, that's fine, but this makes zero sense from a team building, and every general manager would tell you that. Like, it literally, and listen, maybe Penix will be really good. We'll see. We're not going to know for at least 2 years, and this idea that, I'm hearing Colin Cowherd say this nonsense on the air. Well, a year from now, it's no big deal to just change your mind and go ahead and, no, it is, because you've got $45 million basically in dead money on your salary cap. Nobody wants that. That's not good for anybody. Denver did it because they had to. Okay. And they're going to pay for it dearly because of it. So there's no world where this makes sense. Like, maybe 2 years from now, if the coach and the general manager are still there, maybe we can talk about whether this is a win or not. And that's what I do. The other point I want to make about this is that it's not a disaster. Like, this isn't the end of the world. They haven't ruined their team because of it. Their division's terrible. They could still win the division, still get to the playoffs, all of that stuff. It just, if you're trying to win the Super Bowl, this basically, you're putting a hard ceiling on your team right away for no reason. You got a 35-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles, and you're stuck with them for 2 years, and then there's still some guaranteed money on the third year. So, I have no idea what Atlanta's doing, and hey, it might work out. Maybe, I'm trying to think about what's the best case scenario for Atlanta, right? They win the division, make the playoffs this year. Maybe they get a home playoff game. Maybe they win it, right? They probably do the same thing the next year. And then what? That's it. All right, we're just going to turn it over to Penix, and that's what's going to happen. The other thing that bothers me about it is, so you sign Penix now, so you've got Kirk Cousins making all this money. By the time by the time Michael Penix takes over as a starter, you're going to have to pay all the offensive talent that you drafted the past 2 or 3 years. So it's just it's really strange. And it just points to me, like, you can make all kinds of, rose-colored glasses arguments about how, well, they didn't know this was going to happen. So then it's like, oh, well, we got to do this and do this. People are acting like, well, Atlanta's a really smart team and they planned this out. I don't think they planned any of this out. Okay? I think they're really retarded. I don't think they know what they're doing. And this whole thing is a perfect example of how they don't. They have no clue what they're doing. And that's my biggest concern. It looks like you don't have a clue. Did you not watch? Michael Penix played in college for 6 years. You didn't watch him at any point? You didn't watch the film? Like, to me, when the college football season ended this year, you knew exactly what you had in all these, especially the quarterbacks like Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix, who played 5 or 6 years. Like, you should have that down, have that exactly figured out what you wanted to do. So I think I think this might work just fine. It's not the end of the world, but it's just from a team building perspective, like, do you want to win the Super Bowl or not? Because it doesn't seem like you do. So, all right, so let's move on to the NBA playoffs. I have a few thoughts on some of the stuff going on. So, Minnesota destroyed Phoenix last night. They destroyed them in the series. The game was relatively close last night, but they swept them 4-0, which I was taking Minnesota to win the series. I did not think they were going to sweep them. And so, is this a year? Is this where Anthony Edwards, shows up and all of a sudden is one of these guys? Because when you watch him, he looks like young Kobe Bryant, young Dwayne Wade, somewhere in that kind of mold. And he's super exciting. You're just grabbing that team and pulling them along. And this is pretty incredible what Minnesota's doing, when a year ago we were like, what are you doing with this Gobert trade? Like, this is a disaster. How can you do this? Are you paying any attention to the league? And let me tell you something. They've kind of turned a corner. And I think the fact that, I give Charles Barkley a lot of credit last night on Inside the NBA, was like, listen, when you have a dude like this, it brings the whole team together. It puts everybody in their place. Everybody plays their role, and it's like, it just galvanizes the team. And I think the same thing has happened. Like, you watch Karl Anthony Towns, and he does some of the same stupid stuff he always does, but he's like, oh, I got to take this seriously now because we got this guy on our team and I can't screw around. And there's something about that. Somebody who your best player brings it every single day, and that rubs off on everybody else. That's exactly what's going on with Anthony Edwards. So my overall take is, I think Denver has some serious competition. And Jamal Murray, they don't know if Jamal Murray is going to play for Denver tonight. He's got a calf injury or something. So if anything's happening, if Jamal Murray's out, like this becomes much more interesting. And I think Denver's going to have their hands full, and Denver better beat the Lakers tonight. They need to close this out to get ready for Minnesota, because this is going to be really difficult for them. And people are going to say I'm stupid or crazy, but I think Minnesota will be the toughest series for Denver. I just think the matchups are just really difficult. I don't think anybody, I think Minnesota will give Denver the most trouble of anybody. And if Jamal Murray is hampered, like, Minnesota could win this series. That's not a crazy take. That could definitely actually happen. So yeah, I think Denver's got, I still like Denver in the series. I still would take them. But yeah, look out. They're pretty dangerous. And that's, so the Suns Timberwolves series, one of 3 series that, man, I thought would be a lot more competitive, and it looks like they might be over. The Knicks and the Sixers, I mean, that thing looks like, the Knicks have just, they've got their number, man. They're just the Knicks play harder. They're relentless. They go after every loose ball. They're ferocious on defense. The Knicks don't have as much talent as Philadelphia, but I mean, Philadelphia just falls apart at the end of these games. And yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I thought the Knicks would win the series, but I thought it would go 6 or 7. I mean, this is looking like the Knicks are going to finish this at home in 5, and that's crazy. I didn't see that coming. Milwaukee, I mean, I thought Indiana had a hell of a chance, but then Lillard misses the last game, so yeah, this is looking like Milwaukee's going to go out again for the second straight year with a whimper, and yeah, it looks. I thought those things would be way more competitive than they are, and it's a joke. Like, so yeah, I think the Knicks have a great chance to beat Indiana, get to the conference finals, but I do think Indiana is going to cause the Knicks some problems just because of how athletic and how quick they are. Philadelphia, other than Tyrese Maxey, pretty slow team, and so I think that's going to be interesting for the Knicks. But at the end of the day, I just think the Knicks have more defenders, more good players overall on both sides of the floor. So yeah, I'd probably take the Knicks there. The thing that really is bothering me lately that I'm hearing, from a lot of the sports shows and ESPN and FS1 and Colin Cowherd's show and a lot of those is like this idea that like when the playoffs came out, the Clippers are in trouble. Dallas is definitely gonna beat them. Dallas has been much better on defense this year, and they're going to be ready to go. Well, they played 4 games. It's 2-2. Dallas has in 2 games has just not shown up in the first half. Just completely no-showed the first half, and the Clippers have taken advantage of it. Kawhi's been, 20% of what he normally is. If that, he's missed 2 games, has hardly done anything, and the series is 2-2. So I never bought into this Dallas is going to be a great defensive team at all. So yeah, I don't see. I'm watching the games and like they're telling me how great. Oh, Dallas has been so good on defense. Every time I watch them, people are blowing by them. They're scoring on them at will. The Clippers had almost 70 points at halftime yesterday. So this idea that Dallas has this really good defense is just complete BS. I just feel like, and listen, nobody's rooting harder for Luka than me. I love Luka. I love Dallas. I would love them to win, but I'm watching this team and I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. I don't think they have very good wing defenders. They don't really have a dependable scoring outside of Luka and Kyrie. And that's not the end of the world, but I just think at the beginning of this series, I thought, okay, Dallas has nobody to guard Paul George, nobody to guard James Harden, nobody to guard Kawhi. Now Kawhi's out. Who knows if he comes back? But they still, Paul George was on fire in that game, but I still don't see Dallas doing anything to stop the Clippers from doing whatever they want to do on offense. And I just think the Clippers have more answers on defense than Dallas does. So, I said earlier, if Kawhi came back and was Kawhi, then the Clippers are definitely going to win the series. As it is, this might go 7. This might be a dogfight all the way to the end. But yeah, listen, I'd love to see Dallas win, but this idea that this Dallas roster is really good or as good as they were 2 years ago when they went to the conference finals is just nonsense. I just don't see it. Like I'm watching it, I don't buy it. Dallas has 2 really good scorers and 2 big guys, and the rest, good luck with Dante Exum and PJ Washington and all those guys. So yeah, and the other thing is like people acting like, oh, Dallas will win this series and they'll definitely go to the conference finals. They'll beat Oklahoma City. It's like, have you watched Oklahoma City? Like, the idea was, well, Oklahoma City, they have a problem with size. Well, the Clippers and the Mavericks really don't have a whole lot of it. There's nobody that you're afraid of that's big on either one of those teams. So that's not something I would worry about. Oklahoma City's just got a better roster than just about everybody, other than maybe Denver and Boston. So I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. I don't think the Clippers are built to last 2 or 3 rounds with the way that their team is. I just don't think they're built to last. And probably the same thing with Dallas. Like, so much scoring on Luka and Kyrie, they're going to be exhausted when we get to the second round. So I just, I'm not feeling it. I think Oklahoma City and Minnesota are really scary, and I don't feel like people are giving them enough credit. And I think Minnesota is going to be a real pain in the ass for Denver. It's going to take everything they have to beat them. And if you're telling me right now, Oklahoma City against the Clippers or Dallas, I'm taking Oklahoma City. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I shouldn't believe in these younger teams. Maybe experience matters and all that stuff. I don't think experience matters that much. So the other one was the Boston Celtics. Like, honestly, you lose a game at home to this Miami Heat team. Like, what are you doing? You know, you should not be losing home playoff games. The Heat don't have Butler. They don't have Rozier. I mean, what's going on? And then they go to Miami and just destroy them. And it's like, what? Like, it's just confusing to me with Boston. Like, you're significantly better than these teams. Finish them off. So Miami's playing Boston tonight. And I said it to Clark, and I'll say it here. Boston better not screw around. Do not mess around with this Miami Heat team. Do not lose this game and have a 2-2 series. That's a huge mistake. Go to Miami tonight, take care of business, get this thing over with. Because you do not want to end up in game 6 or 7 and all of a sudden, hey, Jimmy Butler's coming back. Like, that's a serious issue. I think as far as who's gonna make the finals, I mean, I'll still take Denver and Boston, but I think Denver, the Jamal Murray injury stuff is really dangerous. I think Denver's going to really this is going to be an all-out war with Minnesota, and then they're going to have to play either Oklahoma City or Dallas with the Clippers. So no easy route, but Denver really needs to close out the Lakers tonight and get this thing over with, so they have a chance, because this Minnesota series is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. So yeah, I'd still say Denver. I'm still taking Denver. I'm rolling with it. I'm not abandoning them. It does concern me, though, that Denver has just allowed the Lakers to get out to big leads in 4 games in a row. That's a bit of a problem. And they better jump on that, because Denver knows, listen, in the fourth quarter, like, we're going to be the better team. So Denver just needs to be a little bit better through the first 3 quarters, to make sure that, they can win the game in the fourth. So, yeah. So I think those are all my takes from this weekend. Side note on the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins don't have a whole lot of needs. Well, I'd say they have a need at quarterback, but obviously that's not changing anytime soon. They got an offensive lineman and an edge rusher, which is exactly what they need, but I'm still of the mind I think the Dolphins are taking a step back this year. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't think they're saving themselves with the draft. And once the Tua contract comes out, I feel like I'm gonna have to vomit for 3 days. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's all I got for today. Make sure to tune in next time. Hopefully, I'll have Clark with me so I can bounce some of this stuff off of him. And have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the NBA playoffs.